Welcome to Screenwriters Beat! Hey, this is episode 7!
Lucky number 7, that's right.
Yay! Yep, today is genre writing, and we're going to get into that in just a moment. First, I would love to introduce my panel of fantastic working screenwriters, starting with Eric Ingram.
Hello, screenwriter world. How's everyone doing today? Can't wait to get to talk about this stuff. This could be a fun show, I promise you all.
Is your microphone, it's still going pop, 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 pop.
Still? How about now?
Still? You poor guy. Well, we're going to get Eric in there. Yeah, also, we have Heidi Mastrogiovanni. Welcome, Heidi.
Welcome, and welcome everyone. It's so great to be with you guys again.
Thank you. And our two Nicoles are here. Nicole Jones-Dion. How are you?
Because two Nicoles are better than one.
That's right. I agree. And also Nicole Kiefler. Hi, Nicole.
Hey, how are you? Hi, guys. Hello, Screenwriting World. Great to be here again, as always. Wonderful.
Yay!
Yay!
And I'm in Kimbrough. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So we'll jump right into this because this is a great thing that you hear a lot: genre writing, and it's because these are the genres that sell the most. And obviously for us, it's in the mid to lower range, but it's also what the big guys want too, I think. How about if we start with Eric Ingram, and you're going to talk to us about action.
Oh, action movies. Action movies sell. They definitely like at 14 to 19 range to get the audience into the theaters. We're talking. I mean, action is supposed to be intense. Adrenaline, these words that you always see, supercharged, that kind of stuff. But when you write them, you always be, especially in the budget range or mid to low budget range that we're talking about. I mean, you start getting into it. Is the car chase really needed? Is the 200 crowd members scene really needed? All these kind of things. So you start kind of getting into action that is only only supports the story. So you quickly get into that very fast at the range we're talking about. So only action, like I said, only action that definitely that is needed, that brings out character, that tells about the character, something about a deeper richness of the character, or the plot that keeps it moving.
Great, that's a great definition. Yeah. Action scenes are not necessarily character-driven or plot-driven, right?
No. What it is, how they do the chase scene is character.
That's how you bring it in. I love it.
Right.
Heidi Mastrogiovanni, I have you telling us about comedy.
Yes, and I would ask, who doesn't love a great comedy, and what makes a great comedy? I would suggest make a list of the 10 comedies you love the most, and I'd be willing to bet, if you want to see them over and over again, that they're about relationships and they're about transformation, as for me all good stories are. And I think that the humor really, really comes from something universal, and that's what makes a great comedy.
Good point. I love universal truths, or just a universal that we can all relate to.
Exactly.
Super. Nicole Jones-Dion, I have you talking about the horror genre.
Yeah, and horror is a really great genre for first-time writers to break in because the budgets can be done very, very inexpensively, and horror is very acceptable. It translates well to international audiences, so it's real easy for producers to sell. Now, the thing with horror is it's very cyclical, and so we're kind of in like a zombie trend right now. But there's some people saying that that's winding down, and it's like slasher films were really hot in the 80s. There was a time when you couldn't sell a vampire movie, and then Twilight came out, and we were gutted with vampire films. So it's very important with horror to pay attention to those subgenres, and even if you're writing your vampire film now and this might be the wrong time, hang on to it for 10 years or 5 years, and everything comes back around again. Everything old is new again in the world of horror. The one, I guess, new thing that James Wan has kind of introduced is this kind of scare a minute, which is kind of new. You used to be able to have these slow builds of, especially in like thrillers, you could have like these slow builds, but now everything's got to hit you from page 1, and something scary has to happen like every 5 pages. So just be aware of that. when you're
That's
writing horror.
tough if you haven't set up a story. I mean, obviously, in a horror, it's easy to scare someone right away. But a lot of the thriller, you need to like care about somebody to be really, yeah.
That's the challenge of being a good screenwriter. So it's just something to work on. It's a skill to work on.
Right. And so you need to know the inherent flaw so you can fix it. Right.
Exactly.
Good coverage. Nicole Kiefler, you're going to talk to us about sci-fi.
Sci-fi. I would say I have a couple of just little pointers about sci-fi. I think they're probably more challenging to write as a first-time writer than maybe horror because they tend to be more expensive. They tend to have more special effects and whatnot. But I think those can be toned down. I think it's still doable on low budget if you keep it really contained. I think a couple of important things to remember is that you've got to remember to have your hero be basically driving the story as opposed to being driven by the world that he or she finds himself in, because the sci-fi world can be so big and so vast that it can sort of easily take the story over. So you have to always remember that the hero's got to drive the story. You also have to have some kind of an emotional connection there. So it can't just be all the explosions and all the cool, CGI stuff. You've got to have something that's going to grab the audience emotionally, because that's what's going to keep them invested. After a while, people can just easily zone out from all the explosions and whatnot. Another thing is you've got to just make sure you've got really, really good, solid concepts, and also that the map that you have is really, really clear for the reader, because you don't want the reader sort of going, huh? How did this guy go from there to there to there? Like, they have to know what the rules are. And so it's our job as the writer to make sure that those rules are really clearly defined, because sci-fi can be huge, and the world that we create within that context can just be extremely complicated. And so you don't want stuff that's too complicated because the reader is just going to get confused.
Good point. You got to set it up pretty fast and keep it simple.
Yes. Yeah.
That's good. For mine, I was going to talk about contained, because I write a lot of contained films, and you find that a lot low budget, mid-range. I would say like 5 million below, but really most like 2 to 3 million. And of course, it's great for anything under. And of course, we've talked about this before. Contained is limited locations. If you can keep it to one major location and maybe some places within there, a few air ducts and elevator shafts, and limited actors. The fewer the better. So it's movies like Phone Booth. If you've seen Buried, there's psychological ones that like Hard Candy are excellent contained films to look at. No special effects, and just get to the heart of that, and it's fun. They're fun to write, but they also have a challenge of trying to make it unique and interesting when everyone's in maybe one room, and not make it seem like a stage play, right? You still need action to them. It depends on the genre.
Right.
But I want to open it up, because those were a lot of topics. Anybody else want to add in something about the genres? I know you guys write in multiple genres.
Well, I think thrillers, I guess we didn't really talk about it, but I think in essence, to me, every movie is a thriller. I mean, it's someone's in trouble.
Exciting.
Right? I know it should be exciting, right? But someone's in trouble, and someone's trying to get them, and they're trying to get to solve whatever they're trying to solve. So it's kind of like these three people. Like, the protagonist is going for a goal, and then someone is chasing the protagonist at the same time. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of, I know it's kind of weird, might not be clear, but I trust me, if you have more time. But thrillers are another thing, because you have to kind of get right into the story. Who's the hero? Who's coming to get them? What are they after? And what's the secret? What's the flaw? You gotta get all that in, but at the same time while keeping the story moving. So that kind of helped my writing out a lot, studying thrillers, because it just says get to the point, go at them, and don't stop until you get to whatever you need to get to.
That's a good point. Nicole Jones-Dion, you write a lot of horrors and thrillers and some sci-fi. How do you create worlds fast?
How do you create worlds fast? I think, a lot of what, Nicole was saying earlier, the other Nicole was saying about, just setting the mythology and being very clear and very consistent with your rules, and I've seen so many sci-fi scripts especially that do this, where it's like the first 5 pages are just, we're going to explain to you, we're on this distant galaxy and this is the aliens that live here and those are the aliens and they have this royal family that does this. Don't do that. Your reader will never make it past your first 5 pages if you do that. So but it's like anything else. If you have a solid theme and characters and focus on those and don't worry so much about all the sci-fi trappings. It's like, good story is good story, and you tell it in the right way, and it doesn't really matter what the genre is. And that was one of the things I was going to kind of throw in about horror too, because I know horror tends to get kind of poo-pooed a little bit because people kind of see it as, it's kind of like at the bottom of the totem pole of writing, and I think it's because it's one of the genres that's very easy to be gimmick-based, like we're going to do found footage, or we're going to do it in 3D, and things are going to jump at you, and they tend to ignore the basic principles of character and subtext and stuff like that. But if you do decide to get into horror and you do elevate your characters and your subtext, you will find that you're now at the top of the horror genre. And the really best of those films are great launching pads to get into other bigger projects.
That's a great term, elevated. It really is. You still need everything. I mean, we're not mentioning drama, are we, Heidi? That's obviously not considered one of these genre writing, but it's still the essence of writing.
It is the essence of writing because it's about conflict, as everyone's been saying. Good writing is good writing. And what is a story? There's got to be conflict. There's got to be transformation. Someone's going on a journey. You have to care about that person who's going on a journey and see it through to the end. And the interesting thing when you mentioned we're not talking about drama, let's just for fun look at the Oscars. Generally drama, not for a first-time writer that you want to go for a project that's necessarily a prestige project, but think about it when you're doing your story. Get me involved and get me to care about those people regardless of the genre.
Exactly.
And Nicole Kiefler, we go back to everyone says be like an expert at one genre. Do you believe that? Do you need to be an expert at maybe a couple?
I know I'm told it's better to be an expert at one, but at the same time, as a writer, I love horror. I mean, that really is my passion. I love horror movies. I love writing horror, but there's part of me that also loves rom-coms. I mean, I love to laugh, and it's like, well, if I'm good at it, then do I really need to say no to it? If I'm drawing inspiration, I think I'm on the fence about that one. In terms of breaking in, I feel like I'm on the fence about that. Yeah. I don't know that it's so bad that if what you're producing, if what you have to show is all fantastic writing, how can you go wrong?
That's a good point.
If everything you're giving is mediocre, then you've got 5 horror scripts, you've got 5 sci-fi scripts, and they're all mediocre.
True. It's very true. And several of us write different genres. So cool, guys. This is a great topic, and I know we can come back to it many times in different versions, and we will. But we'll move on for now. We have a little bit of screenwriting show and tell, which mostly we're just going to talk about, because everyone always wants to know what do you use to write with? What program? So I just thought we'd go around and mention it. I've written with Final Draft and Movie Magic, and I like them both. So anybody else? Eric, what have you written with?
I have both, but Movie Magic is.
You do Movie Magic?
Movie Magic, yes.
Heidi, how about you?
Final Draft all the way.
Yeah, that's cool. Nicole Jones-Dion?
I've always been a Final Draft person, but now that I'm doing this short film, Devil's Deal, and I guess the post-production tools of Movie Magic are better, or not but the production tools, like all that stuff that I don't really know. And so the producer's making me use Movie Magic to get it done. So I'm starting to get my feet wet with that, and it's cool. I can see why people dig it. I'm still more comfortable with Final Draft, though.
Yeah, I started with Final Draft, and then someone was only in Movie Magic, so I got it. It's good to know them all, right?
Oh,
Nicole Kiefler? What do you work with?
Well, I use Final Draft, but I have to say I'm very old-fashioned in the sense that I still use my bulletin board with all my cue cards, and when I write a normal outline in Word, and so basically it's really only the writing of the screenplay that I use Final Draft for. I don't know how to use any of the gadgets on it. As an animation writer, I am required to use that particular software because it's the industry, it's the one that's used, that's prevalent in the industry. So in order for everybody to be able to open up my drafts, we all have to be on the same page. There was one program that I used years ago, though, which was super cheap, and it was just an add-on to Word. It was called Script Wizard. And, you know, I think as like a person who's starting out, because Final Draft, you know, those ones are fairly expensive. I think this was probably $70 or something. And it just sort of fed into Word, but it gave you all the formatting. It didn't have any bells and whistles. It was just for straight-up script writing.
Cool,
but I thought it was a very good program. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Very first script I ever wrote was in Word. When that was hard.
Wow. Never do that again.
It was no.
I was the master of the tab, boy. I had the tab.
Oh, you know, with Final Draft, they have that where it reads, it'll do the voices, and I actually turned that on once so I could listen for a mistake, like typos. It really works for that. The voices are not very good.
Yeah, Movie Magic has that too.
Yeah, it does. They do. They both do basically the same things, and we like them. Well, good. That answers that question. It's one of those two, and everything gets turned into a PDF anyway when you send it to somebody, right?
Right.
So we have a little Q&A. This is one I kind of pulled out because every now and then you see a lot of the same questions appear if you're online anywhere. And this was about acceptable script lengths. So based on what you're writing right now, tell us the genre and what kind of script length are you shooting for? Eric?
Action. Right now, when I'm finishing up my spiritual action thriller. So, action thrillers, best keep it under 105. That's my mark. My first draft is usually maybe about 115, but I already know I'm adding in everything. So, but even in the outline, I know that it's supposed to be every 15 pages. So usually that's 8 mini movies. For people who know that method, that's 8 mini movies. But usually the great thrillers, actions are under 105. So you got to cut out 15. That last mini movie method, so I kind of combine 8.
That works pretty good for action, though, right?
Absolutely.
That last mini movie should be fast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you combine what happens in 7 and mini movie 8, and then we get it down to 105.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Heidi, how about for comedy?
Absolutely the same. I would say ideally 100 to 105 pages. Do not go over 110.
Absolutely.
Ever.
Yeah, you still see it say 120 in places, and I'm like, oh no.
Not anymore.
Nicole Jones-Dion?
Because horror tends to be really low budget and every page costs money, keep it as close to 90 as you possibly can. 95, if you get over 100, you are already in kind of dubious territory. So 90
That's where I'm writing too. I'm the same way. I shoot for 94, and if I'm at 91, I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Nicole Kiefler?
I agree with the rest of you guys. I'm working on a supernatural thriller and a horror, and I'm aiming for like 95 max. But what I do, Eric, with the mini movies is I just, instead of each of them being 15, instead of just merging 2 mini movies, I just make them shorter. All the way
like 10 pages each.
12 pages, 12 pages, yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's so important. I'm glad everyone is kind of adding their specific kind of things they do, because that's the other thing. You gotta do what works for you. So I know that for me, I know that those questions that are answered in mini movie 8 and 7, I know as long as I have the answer to those, I'm gonna, by the time I start rewriting and cutting dialogue and doing this and getting rid of orphans and all that kind of stuff in the script, I'm gonna get it down. I'm gonna get it down to my page count. But at least I know everything and all the questions that I need to know are in there. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and on the topic of page count, I'm sorry to interrupt, but don't try to cheat it by widening the margins and making your font size smaller.
No.
That doesn't work.
No.
Yeah.
Write it tight, write it concise, make every word count, and hit your marks. Don't cheat it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what you think about this, Ann, but I think that's almost another question we can ask.
We should talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great question because I don't. If you're cutting something out, if you're doing that, like if you're trying to get page count by formatting, there's something missing in your script. So never do that.
Never.
Yeah.
And I would say for contained scripts, you could go down to 84 pages because
Wow.
you could. My thing is, though, guys, I've never had a producer say the script has to be this long. Or, that's not what they care about in the beginning, right?
I have. I've had them come with very specific page counts, yeah. But that's because they tend to be focusing on very specific budgets, and they know, these are very experienced producers. They know exactly what it takes to get the film made. And
even on the first draft, they told you, don't go over something?
Yeah, well, because they want those. I mean, for my experience, they want that first draft to be as tight as possible because most of the contracts I do is generally a first draft and a polish because the turnaround so quickly, they go into production so fast. These guys are doing 8-10 films a year, so
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
me too, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with what you just said. It's so important to if you're working with a producer and if they say it's 91 pages, it's 91 pages.
Well, yeah, I have no problem with that. I was just surprised that in the beginning they didn't say, "Hey, I want it to be this length."
No, but they already kind of know exactly what they want. I mean, that's the cool part about working with somebody, especially an experienced person. I know I need it at 90. That's perfect, great.
Right.
That's
and to your point, like, don't argue with him. Like, when I first started out and I had my manager, and he's like, "Look, your monster doesn't come out till page 40. He needs to be out by page 30. And I'm like, it's just 10 pages. What's it matter? It matters.
It matters.
Yeah, it matters a lot. So make sure you're hitting all those beats that you need to hit when you need to hit them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Same with you, Nicole Kiefler?
In animation, I'm also restricted by dialogue. So I have dialogue count and I have page count every single time.
Wow.
And,
Well, I mean, as long as you know the rules of all that, that's just like the beats of those specific genres, you'll do it right. It helps. Right. Well, guys, we've come to the end of episode 7. Woo! So I'd love for you all to go around and if you've got a little catchphrase or one you've made up and changed. We'll start with action-packed Eric Ingram.
Oh, great. Figured you would. Okay, here we go. When you write something, make a copy of it and put it away. No, listen, put it away, and then start honing in on exactly what is needed to sell it.
Yep.
I like that. Don't rush to sell it. That's respect.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Cool. And the very funny Heidi Master Giovanni.
I would love to quote, and I think it's especially apt given our conversation about page length. I want to quote George Orwell, who said, "If it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out."
Very good. I should put that. That's a good one to have by the computer, right?
I think so.
Right on top.
Right on top. All right. The scary Nicole Jones-Dion.
I don't have any cute, pithy saying like Heidi did, and this might sound a little weird coming from a horror writer, but I guess the best advice I can give is avoid negative people, because there's a lot of negativity out there, and while that might be good story fodder, it's really not good for your creative juices and staying focused on what you
point.
do.
Great point. Excellent.
Very, very good point. And we also have an equally scary Nicole Kiefler.
I was just thinking of Houston, we have a problem, because screenwriting really is all about problem solving, right? You come up against roadblock, you've got, producer, writer, everyone wants something different, things aren't merging, and it's our jobs as writers to figure it out and make it happen.
Yeah, we're mission control. We make it happen. Get Apollo 13 back. I love that.
Exactly.
Brilliant. And mine is say hello to my little screenplay. Thanks so much, guys, for doing
Thank
another
you.
episode. I know your time is very valuable, and I love having my working screenwriters here sharing all their great knowledge. And join us again for another episode. And subscribe below and like us.
Yeah.
Because we like you.
We like you. We like you. We really like you.
We really like you.
See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.